We know there are many choices in internet radio, and the staff and host of LA Talk Live would like to thank you for choosing the internet's hottest destination for the most eclectic sound and invigorating talk. This is LA Talk Live. We are more than just talk.
Hello, this is Teka, Lark, Fleming with the MPC Presents the Black Girl Show. Happy New Year and all that good stuff. I'm glad you guys made it through 2014. Of course we are. We have a great show today. I have a new segment. Not that we're not doing Breaking the Table anymore, but right now we're going to do a little segment I called An American Story. And the name of this American story is called Better Americans. When I was 5 years old, I followed a woman around the grocery store. I mistook her for my mother. At some point in the cereal aisle, the woman noticed that my chatter was being directed towards her, and she stared at me. I looked up, and she was a bit startled. Then I said, "I apologize. I thought you were my mom." She narrowed her eyes and slightly grinned. "I can't be your mother. I'm white. And you're black." As she said this, she leaned over and touched my arm and stretched out her hand and held her slightly California suntan skin next to mine. In my head, I thought defiantly, "My mom's skin is lighter than yours, and she's American. More American than you." Up until that moment, I thought there were two races, American and not American. We were definitely American. At least my mom and I were American. My dad was kind of not as American. My judgment on American or not American was based on how close you sounded to the people on TV. I liked TV a lot. My mother was from LA, and my dad was from Mobile, Alabama. As a kid, Mobile, Alabama wasn't America to me. Connie Chung, the newscaster, was American. Connie Chung and I looked the same. We both had black hair. I remember my grandmother from Alabama said to me, "You could be a newscaster just like Connie Chung. You talk real good. She's cute, ain't she?" At that point, I heard my mother calling me. I ran towards her. "Please stay nearby. I told you this several times," sighed my mother. In the early 80s, everyone was getting kidnapped. I kind of wanted to get kidnapped. I thought what a fun adventure that would be. I looked up at my mom, and for the first time, it crossed my mind. What if we're not the same? What if there could be different kinds of Americans? What if I'm not American, like my dad? I had always assumed my mom and I were the same. "Are you white, Mom?" I asked. While I didn't know the details of race, I did know that whatever that woman was, it seemed better than what I was, and I wanted to be better too. "Be quiet, Teka. Why do you always ask these silly questions?" said my mother. At least she didn't say no, I thought. All right. That was the end of my American story. We have two great guests. So when we get back, we were going to be talking to Zoe Black and Chiwan Choi. And keep in mind, this is a new time, 3 p.m. on Saturdays. So disregard the banners because they're all wrong. I was a little bit, it's a new year. You know how it goes. So after our break, we'll be back with Zoe Black. Thank you. Hello, we're back with LA Talk Live and MPZ presents the Black Girl Show. And our first guest of the new year is Zoe Black, and I have known Zoe for a very, actually a pretty long time. Like informally, you had the Indigo Lounge in Little Tokyo, like a jazz club. Mm-hmm. You also were, when I had a studio at the brewery, you showed one of your films.
I sure did. Yeah.
So you could look her up online. She's a lot of stuff. You don't have to go through all that. So, as I always do, I'm always asking, what is a LA question? So, what is your favorite place for breakfast, Zoe?
Let's see. You know what?
What?
It's in my living room.
In your living room?
You know what? I actually cook a really good breakfast, and everyone says I do. Mm-hmm. So eggs Benedict, mimosas, everything like that. Like, I guess I do a really good job because people always ask me to make breakfast. So...
I'm in shock. Everybody understands that Teka Lark goes out everywhere. I don't have any food. All I have in my house are I have beer and some Metro tokens or something.
I love to cook.
You do?
Yeah, I love to cook, and for people. But I mean, my second choice would be probably the French Marketplace.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, I'm gonna start going to your house for breakfast.
You're invited.
All right. So, let's see here. I'm very into libraries, and I know Mamie Clayton, the famous Mamie Clayton, Dr. Mamie Clayton. She has her archive. She kind of saved up a lot of books and things, a lot of archives on African American history, and she had kind of almost lost her space. But then the Culver City Library kind of took over her, like gave her a place for her stuffs to Dr. Mamie Clayton's collection. I know that she was a mentor of yours. You want to talk a little bit about Dr. Mamie Clayton and archiving our history?
Yeah. Actually, I met her at Cal State Northridge. Mm-hmm. I did my undergrad there. Mm-hmm. And I was taking a Black History course. And she walks in, and she was the special guest speaker for the day. And I was just so taken aback about all this information that she's been collecting over the years, and just by her presence. And I was like, I need to work with this woman. And after her presentation, I ended up hooking up with her, and from then we just a beautiful relationship just bloomed from there. And I helped her with some of her film showcases and celebrity golf tournaments, and just and also organizing at her house, trying to keep all the mildew off of her beautiful collection. And she always did have a dream. This was before she even had the museum. So she always had this dream, actually, to buy one of those nice historic buildings on West Adams. And she really wanted to turn that into a library. That was her ultimate dream. And but I'm still, blessed that she's, we still have a space for her archives and all that kind of stuff. But that was her ultimate dream, was to turn one of those historic homes on Adams into a library and a place where you can sit and read, and just a real inviting space. So so maybe somebody will do it.
Yeah, somebody will do it. That's a good idea, because I'm not sure if that home is temporary or permanent. That home at Culver City Library. And it would be really good if it was in a kind of historic African American community.
Yeah, because that was really her plan, and she loved talking about it and visioning it, and so it was really her plan. So I hope perhaps sometime in the future that may happen.
Yeah. I'm hoping that happens too. So I mean, why do you think archiving our history is important? I mean, even though she's a mentor of yours, I mean, why do you think archiving because I mean, you also do writing, and you also kind of do production, and you do all these various things. We'll go into all things that you do, but why do you think archiving African American history is important?
It shows us where we've been and where we can go, and all the possibilities, and I think that's important to know what we've done and where we've been, and just also the history, and it totally will show us what we can do from here, so I think it's like hope, motivation, inspiration, all that stuff.
Well, yeah, it's kind of like going to kind of like my theme today is kind of the two Americas, and and it could go beyond race. It could be race, it could be gender, it could be class, it can be all these things. What our history and who we are and what stories are told in the United States, and it's kind of like African American stories are not told in a variety of ways. And I think that's one of the things we can kind of go into the fact that you have a film production company, Piddle Productions.
Actually, it's a multimedia company.
Okay.
So what I try to do is it's like a multimedia hub where most of my projects, I use art as a healing medium in underserved communities.
Okay.
So that's pretty much what it is. So I use different forms of communication to tell stories, to help people heal, to give them inspiration to go on and tell their own stories and stuff like that.
Well, yeah, because one of the stories that's kind of told about African American women are, African American women are strong. So that's like the only story that's told. So if you kind of like, if you're having some challenges or something like that, you're just kind of like, well, that's not my story. That's someone else's story. So it's almost, I guess, another important part of storytelling is giving people ideas that, or kind of reassurance. Hey, maybe I'm not weird. Or, that's a different way of looking at something. So I think that's one of the things about, that's why, is that why archiving to you is important too, just to kind of like tell, to tell all of our stories, and also why do you think film is important? Because I think a lot of times we don't think film is important. Well, I mean, the thing is, people who are in academia, they're like, popular movies are done, whatever. Not that you do more like art type films, but
I think it gives us a point of reference in history, and again where we've been, and the things that you can kind of see, things that are changing and things that are staying the same, stuff like that. And I think the more we know about our roots and our culture and the history, the stronger we can become. And a lot of what my projects deal with mental health, because that's my background. So it really starts with healing, and I think that's like one of my big emphasis this year is going to start. It's more about radical self-love. So I deal with people of color, I deal with the Black experience, and I really feel like this year is the year of radical action and radical self-love, so we can tell better stories, and not have too many fears and too many things hidden, and sometimes we lash out because there's so much we're hiding, and guilt and shame and all that kind of stuff. So it's really about empowerment this year of self.
Yeah, because I think that's another story that's often told, and I you always hear probably me complain about this because we run the same circles, and I've always talked about the thing that really bothers me is that the African American story is about not dying. That it's like that's the exclusive story. Like, okay, that's the only story that's told, and what does that do to our psyche when our ultimate goal is not being killed, not dying, it's not even about like living. How do you think that film can help in addressing that?
Well, I think that there's definitely power in numbers. So if we can see somebody else's experience and being transparent, maybe we can tell ourselves, okay, maybe we don't have to be that strong all the time, and we can depend on people, and because I know a lot of women. Or the stereotype is, we're the strong woman, we don't need anybody, but everybody needs somebody. And just to surrender to that level, to know that everybody needs somebody, is a big deal sometimes, So I think it all starts there.
Okay. And why did you name it Piddle Productions? That's an interesting name, like piddling around.
Everyone says that, and they look it up, they're like, what?
Yeah.
But, I used piddle because it's different forms of communication. Okay. So, multimedia. But however, how it started was when I was little. For some reason, before I could even talk, I used to cuss people out and call them piddles. And it was just this standing joke with my family. Yeah.
Sweet
I used
Zoe.
to get really mad, and I used to be, piddle, you piddle. And everyone used to ask me, what does that mean? And I still don't know to this day what it meant, but obviously it meant something to me. So And they still tease me for it, this many years later. So
I'm going to tease you for it now because that's funny.
Yeah, it is. I have no idea what it means, but it means something now.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So just that's it's kind of built from there.
Yeah.
I mean, do you have any upcoming projects in regards to that? Do you have any upcoming Piddle Productions? Do they have any upcoming projects?
I do have a project that's a leadership project.
Okay.
And I have a blog called Urban Soul Farmer.
Oh, yeah. I know.
Yeah. And, I'm a UC certified gardener. That's like one of my passions.
Okay.
And so what I want to do is take a couple of interns, and we're going to go build a greenhouse internationally.
Okay.
So that's in the works right now. So anybody who's interested in sponsoring a 18-year-old, let me know. Because it's in the works, and of course it's for leadership. It's community. It's getting to learn a different language.
Well, what place are you guys going to go to?
You'll find out.
Okay. Weren't you in Costa Rica or something like recently, or where were you at?
A while ago. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, it'll be you'll find out.
Okay. So I mean,
stay tuned at Zoe Black. You'll find out.
So are you gonna be filming this whole thing? So you're gonna be filming it and kind of like people are gonna
documenting
it.
Yeah. Of course, all that good stuff.
Yeah. That's interesting. I mean, why? I mean, how'd you get? Because you're talking about you cook thing. So I'm just like, what? You cook? So you cook and you do gardening and farming and all this stuff. I mean, is that kind of something that you learned from your mother or your grandmother or?
Pretty much, yeah. Both of my parents, one of them's from Louisiana, the other one's from Oklahoma.
Yeah.
So it's always been in the blood. We've always had a garden, whether we lived in the city, country, whatever. I'm the city girl.
Yeah.
But it's just one of my passions. One thing that I've learned is to just go ahead and cultivate your passions, not really stick to a rigid goal or some sort of thing. Just cultivate your passions, and something good will happen. So it's taken me here to putting together this leadership program and implementing multimedia with it, so I can expose it. And the thing is, Urban Soul Farmer, I created that blog because I wanted more people that look like me, better eating, better recipes, all that kind of stuff. But I wanted people to see themselves doing those things. So that's why I created this site. And, so that's pretty much what it's all about.
Well, as you know, we are all lots of us Black women in Los Angeles. Also, lots of us alternative Black women in Los Angeles. We are planning a book festival, and it's going to be awesome and wonderful. It's going to be on March 7th. And I picked Zoe because the important thing is to learn delegation. And I when I was like, I want to have a film component and I want to have Zoe do it because Zoe knows about film and I know nothing. And I'm going to pick some weird stuff that no one's going to watch. So we have some great films. Do you want to talk about some of the films, or do you want to be secret? Okay, go ahead.
I mean, yeah, sure. Because I'm excited about the films.
Okay.
So the first film that I chose is called Beyond Suicide, and it's a documentary done by Patsy Moore. Amazing artist, amazing, and it talks about her battle with depression and recovery. And again, that's what my thing is. It's about mental health, trying to get better. It's about women taking care of themselves. They're a lot of times at the head of the village, so it's kind of one of those things that I really want to emphasize on this year. So I was just really taken aback on this film. I've watched it a dozen times, and it just takes you through all these different emotions. But, at the end, it's just like, And I really feel that it could help people, and maybe people are in those situations or know someone going through that. And it just, again, there's power in numbers and showing that, and people, not being ashamed of that kind of stuff. Because I know a lot of times, people of color, they kind of like brush that under the rug, and they don't want to talk about it or whatever. But I think it's time to start talking about those things so we can heal, so we can get somewhere, so we can think about solutions, because this is the year of solutions, you know. But again, there can't really be any solutions until we start taking accountability of our own lives, you know. So I'm sure to show 3 films. The next one is called Black Cotton, and it's actually the behind the scenes of Black Cotton. It's actually a tabletop book about Black hair, Black image. It's photography. It's just an inside view of what a project is, and it's all like Black people that put this together. So to me, it just shows a perspective that we don't really see. You know, the whole team from, you know, from everything. They're all Black. So I think that's great. The next film is a comedy, and by Lisa Hawley, and she's a comedian. And I mean, it's the shortest one, but I mean, it had me rolling. And it's just so real, and it's about LA, and you know, so
what's it called, like a Hollywood Temporary or something?
Temporal.
No, go ahead. So
yeah, I think it's Hollywood.
Yeah.
But come and check it out. I think it's really worth watching. And
well, I think the thing I liked about the pictures, the movies that you picked, is that they were all so very different. So it's not like this one perspective of what Black women are, which is like the, you know, the big challenge is because if you don't fit in this little box, like if you're not like a mom or a superwoman or some, you know, what you have to fit in this little box. If you don't fit into a stereotype, they're just like, so like, especially people who are doing film, it's like, oh, like I think it's so wonderful that we are going to be showing a comedy, because, you know, there are a lot of us who are funny.
Exactly. And she's funny. Lisa Hawley is funny.
Yeah, because I mean, especially in Hollywood, you're trying to like survive in Los Angeles with no job. I mean, job, and you have to work these temp jobs. Even, I mean, and then on the other hand, you have the whole beauty thing, and that's an important part. I mean, even though like I don't really focus on that much, but it's like, but that is part of the Black experience, regardless if you can't. That's the thing too, having agency, being able to kind of, I want to talk about hair. I want to talk about business. I want to talk about being funny. I want to talk about, and I think that's like one of the challenges. You have a very active Afro punk group. I'm very into online, so I always reference people's online activities, because I'm, you know, to me, online is my real life. It's not like, it's some fake separate thing. It's just as part. It's like that other bar that I go to. So I mean, you know, kind of being part of that Afro punk kind of thing. What are your challenges? Kind of like not fitting into the corporate box. What are your challenges?
It could be just, you know, the way I grew up, my travels around the world. You know, I speak German. You know, Black people speak German. You know, just different things like that. I think I feel not really fitting in, and I feel like having to create my own lane some sort of way. And so, you know, I have all the formal education, all that, but after that was over, I was just like, okay, I'm ready to start my own lane. You know, so everything that I've learned, you know, I've cultivated some sort of way into my own style. And I think, again, this is also a time where we just have to cultivate our passions, you know, and that will lead us, that will bring us to the right people, whatever, and not get stuck on like a rigid plan of, okay, this is what I'm going to do, and I'm sticking to it, because, you know, it may not happen that way. And that's okay, because there's a plan for everyone. So you just have to, you know, trust yourself and just continue to do what you love, and you'll run into the right people.
So I mean, what do you think about the whole concept of two Americas? I mean, I know that's kind of like my real running theme, just because there's all these two things that are always going on in regards to, like, if you're a woman or if you're African American, if you're like Latino, like, it doesn't matter. It's like you have these two cells, but it's like it's two Americas. There's two cells. There's two Americas that we're talking about, rich and poor, but there's so many different variations like on that. I mean, can you give me, like, I know it's kind of like a random question, but what are your thoughts about that? Even like maybe even the word, even the phrase "two Americas," that might even be offensive. I mean, because like, oh, how dare you like embrace like United States as America. Like there's, America includes Canada and Mexico too. So,
right.
So what do you think about that before we wrap it up?
What do I think about that? I think it's what you make of it. Mm-hmm. However, this is my new thing for this year. Mm-hmm. This is what I'm saying to everyone. Find your star cluster orbit. Mm-hmm. Okay, that means that in this whole universe, there's always going to be someone that you can relate to, someone who can relate to you, and and that's kind of how we cultivate who we are, mm-hmm. and so that would be my answer.
Just find out where you're supposed to be, and it won't matter. So you won't be a response to anything. You'll just be you'll just be.
Yeah, exactly. Because there's a lot of people that are trying to make you into things that you're not, or they're falling into stereotypes, and they're not doing research, and they're just following whatever. And so being grounded is just knowing who you are and finding your circle, mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. and do the best you can within that. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, I also want to thank Zoe for my great birthday gift. She gave me this box, which is awesome, and then she gave me this right here because it's my birthday. It's like a magnet. She says it'll keep me young, so apparently I'll be 25 forever. So I mean, I really want to thank you. Well, can you give me a few of your website, your Twitter handle, so that we can find you online?
Sure, at Zoe Black. Mm-hmm. That's
spell it.
Google it.
Spell it, because
Zoe Blaq.
Yeah, we were just making it hard for you guys. Yeah, go ahead.
You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. It's all Zoe Black.
Yeah, and then Piddle Productions.
And Piddle Productions, .weebly.com. Yeah, it's a website. But at Zoe Black.
Yeah, and so I mean, so for people who wanted to do film, what if people want to start a film production company? Give them one piece of advice.
One piece of advice?
Yeah.
Watch as many films as possible.
Watch as many films as possible. Okay. So, but should they pay for them, or could they be bootleg?
No, all of the above. But pay for them, of course.
Pay for them, of course. Yeah, popcorn. I don't know why people don't get popcorn. Have you heard of popcorn?
Yeah.
That software programming, you can get all the up-to-date movies, and it's totally legal. It's not even like BitTorrent or something. It's called popcorn. You download it, and it's really good. It's better than Netflix. It's free. That's why I like it, because it's better than Netflix, because it's free. But it was really great speaking with you, Zoe.
Thank you for having me.
I really appreciate all the work that you've done, and you're like a nice person, good spirit, whatever. People say that, but exactly. But you know what I mean. You're a good person. You're a good person. In LA, that people are like, oh, everybody's horrible. That's not true. Zoe's nice. At least Zoe is nice. Yeah, at least Zoe's nice. Teka may not be nice, but Zoe is nice. Yeah. But we're going to actually, in a little bit, we're going to go on a break. But we'll be having Chi-Wan Choi up next. So please, but you can also, remember, catch me at 3 p.m. on Saturdays. I'm so sorry the banner is incorrect because it was late on January 31st. Or no, December 31st. It was late and I messed it up. But LA Talk Live on Radio 360, Black Grrl Show website. And that's all the places that you can find the Black Grrl Show and watch it here. And also, we are also live tweeting this at hashtag Black Grrl, BLK, GRRRL, like, the girl in Riot Grrl. So please, come back in about 2 minutes and we'll be back with Chi-Wan Choi. So, signing out.
It's working. It's working. It's working. Maybe it's working. It's working. It's working. It's working. This is counterclockwise music for your eyes. No longer can we sit and share. It's time to rise. Life full of maggots, niggas, and flies. Trash, ash, and cash. Where does the truth lie? As the youth cries, hate subsides. The planet is terrorized, leaving no place to hide from the third eye. Down. God is a mirror in the sky. Color outside the lines. All in time, all is time in the mind. Unfulfilled ambition, broken ladders to climb. Red wine, white lines, blue collar crime. Scars got us blind. Nation on the decline, flat line, your lifeline. Alley, oxen free. What does the future hold for me? I've been punished for my crimes, but still I can't find peace of mind to set me free. It seems that I've become my own worst enemy. Tell me who to trust when I can't trust me. Alley, oxen free. There's been no compromise.
Hello world, how you living? This is D Brex, your host of the all-new rap project here on LA Talk Live. That's latalklive.com, or you can find me on iTunes Radio in the R&B section. That's the rap project every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. That's Wednesdays at 7 p.m. West Coast time, so don't be late. On the Rap Project, I will be playing the very best of rap and hip-hop that goes beyond the ordinary. So connect with me, your host, D-Brax, the rap connoisseur, on the Rap Project every Wednesday at 7, right here on latalklive.com, where we are more than just talk.
Hi, this is Randy Franklin inviting you to join me every Thursday at 5 p.m. for my show, Probable Cause. Join me while I dissect current events, talk about laws, and answer your law enforcement questions. So don't forget to tune in to Probable Cause every Thursday at 5 p.m. exclusively on latalklive.com. You can also catch us on iTunes Radio R&B, TuneIn Radio, Radio Flag, and AHA Radio. Or watch and listen directly at latalklive.com. Grrl Radio, handcrafted for your listening and viewing pleasure. I am Randy Franklin, and this is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
I should have stayed at Margie's where the people are friendly, where the music is warm and the beer is cold.
Hello, this is Teka Lark Fleming with NPC presents the Black Girl Show. We have our next guest. But before we have our next guest, I want to say, remember that our show comes on 3 p.m. Saturday. I'd also like to say hello to Jason Litz in Kentucky. I know he bought a Black Girl cup, and I appreciate that. So hello, Jason. So right now we have Chiwan Choi. I could go and do a whole bio on you, but you know, the thing is, there's this thing called Google now. So it's like that's just me. That would be just me filling space. We don't need to fill space with Chiwan. So I know that you. I remember I have known you informally for a while in poetry land.
Yeah.
And I've seen you like various places, but you've been kind of famous in poetry land. But before I ask you that question, what's your favorite bar in Los Angeles?
My favorite bar, the most convenient bar is Spring Street Bar in downtown. That's the one I'm at all the time. But because there's still a couple of bartenders there and a couple of staff people who are friends. Mm-hmm. And neighborhood people show up there, so we hang out there. But I don't know. I don't really have a favorite bar.
You don't have a favorite bar?
I just go where my bartenders are.
You go where your bartenders are?
So if they move jobs, that's where I go.
Well, you are a loyal customer, man. You follow your bartenders around the way you know. That's great. That's great.
Yeah, I mean, I don't care about the bar owners. I just care about the bartenders.
Oh, that's true. That's true. Well, downtown LA is changing so much, so it's just getting. I don't know, but it's still not quite as expensive as other parts of LA.
It's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous?
Yeah, it's getting ridiculous. I mean, our rent went up 10% this year, and that was because we renewed early. It was like early renewal, 10%.
What if you ever knew Larry? Would have been like 20%?
40.
40?
Yeah.
Wow.
Because all those lofts in downtown, they're not subject to rent control.
Yeah. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Okay, well we'll get off that disturbing topic like of how much it costs to live in Los Angeles. So, I was gonna, what's your favorite thing about Los Angeles? I know I'm asking you all these LA questions because why not? Everybody knows about your writing. We'll get to that later.
It's the people.
Yeah.
I mean, it's funny. Like when I'm many times when I meet people and I go, man, this person's really cool. Mm-hmm. They're born and raised here. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. There's something about native LA or people who've been here for a long time that have a special quality. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that about it. I don't really care about the weather. I don't drive, so it's not like
you don't drive. So it's not the part that's important.
Yeah, my license has been suspended since like May or something.
Oh, okay. I wonder if that connected with the whole favorite bartender thing. But I don't know. I mean, who knows if that has anything to do with it? That might not have
had nothing to do with that. It had to do with me just being lazy with some stupid fix-it ticket that never got fixed, and it was like, I don't even want to drive anyway.
Oh, you don't care about the fix-it ticket? Okay. That's your paperwork problems.
I have paperwork problems.
I understand that. I'm also have paperwork problems. That's why I was talking the other day. I was like, oh, so if I don't pay for these things, what about? I think jail might be easier than actually just taking care of this.
I won't go that far, but
well, you're not driving in Los Angeles. That's kind of like jail.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, you love it. Yeah. Okay. Why did you start Writ Large Press? I mean, you're a writer, and I even have your little book here, Abductions. This book is very disturbing. You know that?
Thank you.
It's yeah, I was like that. I would like to read. I don't want to depress everybody, but in the new year. But I mean, I like it though. It's like that's not my thing. It's like
Yeah.
But why did you start a press instead of just being a writer?
Well, I moved to New York in 2002 to do grad school at NYU. Mm-hmm. And I've been writing for a long time before that. But when I got to New York, I realized New York really had nothing on LA writers. Mm-hmm. I heard so much reputation about New York and San Francisco and everything. And there are people I love out there, but collectively I was like, LA writers need to get published. Mm-hmm. So I met my wife Judith over there, and then we moved back to LA, and we started a little literary magazine called Wednesday, and we ran that for about a year and a half. Mm-hmm. But when we were wrapping that up, she and I were like, I think we're ready to publish books. Mm-hmm. Just because we knew a bunch of writers we thought should get published. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of like why you started.
Yeah.
So just like to help people in Los Angeles because it is very challenging to get published.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. So but why'd you pick the name Writ Large?
It's out. We might have been. We were just messing around. We were. I think we were laying on the floor of our living room. Mm-hmm. We were like, "What's the most ridiculous name we could think of for the tiniest publisher in the world?" We're like, let's call ourselves Writ Large Press.
Oh, okay, so it's like you were trying to be funny, or no one. I'm always waiting for somebody to give me some kind of deep thought, like the reason why I thought of this is because I was no, it wasn't like that. Okay, well, one of the things about getting published that is challenging is owing to race and owing to gender in Los Angeles. Not in Los Angeles, it's all across the United States. Because there's a kind of like a certain idea of what a writer looks like, what a certain writer is supposed to, what you're supposed to write about, depending on what your race is, what your class is, what your gender is. And I know you often address that in your online life, which is, I hate saying that because I feel like online is the same thing as your real life. So you had this, you were kind of started this thing like my timeline friends are racist. Like, well, why did you start that?
Oh, it was a few weeks ago when, the world was a crazy place a few weeks ago.
Yeah, it was a crazy
Even
place.
more so than normal. Mm-hmm. I have to go back a bit. I was we delete people from our Facebook friends list, right?
Like a lot of people got deleted from mine. Yeah.
But I was listening to this author who's a professor at MIT.
Mm-hmm.
And he was talking about how we keep so many like-minded people on our social media networks that we only get one perspective all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, let me just keep these people that I never want to talk to. Just to see what it is they had to say.
Mm-hmm.
So a few weeks ago when various rulings came out,
Mm-hmm.
I was just amazed at the things that people were saying publicly.
Mm-hmm.
With their name on it,
Mm-hmm.
publicly racist things.
Yeah.
So and then they would delete it, some of them. So I started taking screenshots.
Yeah.
So I created this Tumblr called "There Are Racists on My Facebook," and then I created a submit button, and people started sending me screenshots from their own Facebook feeds of people just blatantly.
Mm-hmm. Make sure you get your clip.
Yeah, people blatantly saying horrible things. And
no,
it's like,
aren't you surprised that with the stuff people say on their Facebook page that you're supposed to be like, you think like, who I am, right? You're not going to even exclude me from this racist, like, you hear about the Ferguson ruling and the Eric Garner ruling in New York, and then you just kind of go, you do know who I am. It's like they don't even care.
Yeah, they don't care.
Yeah, even after you start that, you still had your friends, not your friends, but people who you knew on Facebook saying racist. You thought they'd be like, at that point, well, let me exclude him. So
yeah, so it's interesting because sometimes I read comments from writers and artists, and I go, it makes me rethink every piece of art they've created. Like, wow. Let me reread what you wrote.
No, it does make you reread and think about stuff.
Yeah, so start thinking about where that came from, and it's been interesting. It's been really interesting.
And I mean, do you think that are you consciously trying to be? Well, you know what? Are you consciously trying to be inclusive with writ large press in regards to who you're publishing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was weird because our first 3 books were white authors.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember having a sit down with Judith going, what am I doing?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it was just a scheduling thing, but at the same time, it was like, because those were the 3 manuscripts that got finished first from all the authors we wanted to publish.
Mm-hmm.
But it was still like, wow, what am I doing? Am I just doing, are we doing the same thing that we're saying we don't want to do?
Mm-hmm.
So just constantly questioning my own motives and what it is I'm doing and my work has at least kept me aware.
Mm-hmm.
So, there's that part of you, it's like, I just want to publish the books I like. But at the same time, it's like, I could be really lazy and just choose from this small pool that everybody chooses from all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Or I could go to the authors, diverse, who are all equally great writers, and say, hey, I want to publish your next book. So we feel good about it.
Mm-hmm.
We feel good about it. But it's still something that I think about all the time. All the time.
It's like I would want to say, are you being openly inclusive? But I'm just like thinking, no, maybe you're just openly not being openly racist because of how things work. And the thing is, I found that even people of color, we end up kind of being, doing the same thing because we've kind of been taught like, this is how these are the good writers and these are the good artists or these are the good, painters or this.
Right.
And we're using the same criteria that, so it's kind of weird that we kind of have to consciously think on in that way.
Right.
Who is your mentor? Do you have a mentor? You're a writing mentor. Who do you?
My writing teacher since 1987 has been Jack Grapes.
Yeah.
I met him when I was in high school.
Mm-hmm.
He just broke down all the romanticized view of art and writing. It was just, it's work. Learn the craft, work. And I still stay in touch with him. I drop into his class every so often. He's the one writing teacher I've had.
And where does Jack Grape's classes are? 'Cause I know a lot of people. He had a lot of students in LA.
Yeah. He teaches it at his own office.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, everything I've learned about writing, I've learned from him.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's like your mentor and your person.
Yeah.
Okay, you were written about in the LA Weekly, and they called you the Jay-Z of poetry. Like, what was that like? Like, what how did you feel about that?
That was from the brilliant mind of Joseph Lappin.
Yeah.
Who was writing for LA Weekly and Salon and various places. And he's also a poet. He's a journalist and a poet. When he heard that I quit writing poetry, because I was done. I was like, it was at the end of my readings for Abductions. I was like burned out, and also I was, for me, whenever I get to a certain place with a work I'm doing, I'm like, I need to start from scratch. So I was like, okay, I'm quitting poetry. And he contacted me through Facebook, and he was like, I heard you're quitting poetry. Is it true? I was like, yeah. And he was like, I want to interview you. I want to write something. And it was a really interesting way of going into various things that I'd been thinking about what writing means, about what books symbolize or mean, about segregation in the literary community, and all these things. And his thing was, you're gonna be back. You're gonna start writing again. That's why he said, like Jay-Z, you're gonna come out of retirement. So it was funny. We joked about it, but then when I saw the actual headline in LA Weekly, I just couldn't stop laughing.
No, because it was like, wasn't it like on the cover?
No, it wasn't on the cover, but it was in the.
It was like a pretty big section.
Yeah,
It wasn't like a little. It wasn't like a little and buried somewhere. It was like, oh, you could actually brag about this. Like, oh, look.
Yeah, it was funny. It was really funny. And then it got like reblogged and retweeted just because it's automated. So many things are automated, and the words Jay-Z popped up, so it got reblogged.
Yeah.
Everywhere.
When you write about writers, add a rap person's name in it, and then it's like it like already pumps them up even more.
It was funny.
Yeah. So why did you decide to become a writer? And like, how do you or a poet? I mean, why did you decide to you're not like you're actually like a poet. So
it's funny when I look at my old high school yearbooks, like people signed good luck in art school because they all thought I was going to go to art school.
Yeah. What schools did you go to?
I went to like my grade school.
Yeah. Well, I'm saying that when they were signing, like what high school?
I was at Uni High in West LA.
Oh, okay, okay. All right.
But then I met Jack Grapes, and when I first started writing, I was like, this is closer to what I want to express. And it was. I finally felt like I was getting a grasp of English language through writing. So dove right into it, and poetry was just the easiest form for me to get. It was the most accessible.
The most accessible. But how did your parents feel about that? I mean, were they like, when you say, I'm going to be a poet, no, not a writer. I know writers don't make any money, but I want to make no money. I want to be in debt. So I want to be a poet.
They thought I would grow out of it. It's funny. They came out to my first book release when my first book, The Flood, came out. And the place was packed. Like, there were people spilled out on the sidewalk and stuff. My parents like looked at me. They were like, why are all these people here for you?
No one reads poetry anymore. Did you read that?
I think that was the point where it actually hit them that, oh, this is what you do. So.
Okay, so there's like but that's, you're one of those kind of rare people that you are. I mean, you do a lot of things. Of course, you have a book publishing company, which is another thing. Yeah. Another thing on the side, the whole book publishing company. But you actually are like a legit poet. That's kind of like what you are. You're not like some poet / actor / waiter /
Yeah, I'm a terrible employee.
Yeah, you're a poet. Poet. Unemployed.
Yeah.
Hyphen unemployed.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you just kind of, because it was easy for you to express yourself. That's what you're saying.
Yeah.
So what impacts your writing? Is it politics? Is it your family? Is it your friends? Is it your inside of the writing?
It's evolving. I think one thing that remains constant is that it's personal.
Mm-hmm.
But what defines personal is evolving as I get older.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I try to stay away from what I thought was politics for the longest time.
Mm-hmm.
And I still won't write like political, like blatantly political things.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean but it is the personal.
Yeah.
It is what affects us in life, you know. Especially if you're a person of color, you can't separate politics from the personal, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like I'm finally like growing up in that sense.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I feel like I'm like in first grade. I'm like learning from people that I look up to.
Mm-hmm.
So I think not writing for a couple of years had really helped me just look at things and think about things in a different way that I tried to avoid for a long time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And who are your favorite alive writers?
Oh man.
Now, let me make people mad at you. Go ahead.
I mean, I love everybody we published, but staying away from that.
Mm-hmm.
This past year, 4 books that I read really just like knocked me out.
Mm-hmm.
They were Bell Hook's Art on My Mind, the
Mm-hmm.
book of essays.
Mm-hmm.
A book called Damnation by Janice Lee.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
A book called Creature
Mm-hmm.
by Amina Kane.
Mm-hmm.
And Citizen.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you're just out there. Just you have a wide variety of kind of writing style. So you don't just read poetry, but
No.
Yeah.
I actually don't read poetry that often anymore. Because I will rarely read like a poetry book.
Mm-hmm.
It's weird.
No, it's not. It's not weird because I think a lot of people.
Yeah.
A lot of people go, I don't read poetry
No,
very
I
much.
think, I mean, my reading has really slowed down a lot. Just
Mhm.
because I end up reading a lot of manuscripts and stuff.
Yeah.
And what used to be like my escape is now like, I'm just gonna
not say your prison, but
I'm just gonna binge watch Game of Thrones for a while.
yeah. But I mean, you know, so your writing, it's so I don't want to say it's hard to say. It's just it always kind of makes me sad. I don't know if are you trying to be sad? I mean, it doesn't. No, it's not like manipulative. Like I'm so sad, but your writing kind of is political because it kind of is talking about personal stuff, the stuff that's happened to you, and like you said, if you're a person of color, or if you're living in Los Angeles in a big city or somewhere or New York, you think you're right. I'm just writing about my life, and you're like, well, this is kind of a politically charged poem, but not like on purpose. It's not so obvious.
Yeah.
You know, even though that that's kind of like your it's kind of ironic, like the title, writ large is obvious and like, big obvious, but like the writing is like not so big and,
Yeah, and I tell people I'm both the happiest and saddest person I know. I mean, it's something that the sadness is something like we embrace, and it's like it's yours. The happiness feels like you share it with everybody, but that sadness is like yours. So you want to protect it. It's like it's mine.
It's my sadness.
Yeah. Yeah, and for me, always it's been about the personal voice. So it's funny. Lark started out as sort of a joke name in a way, but we've sort of like the name fits us now because I think we're always looking for ways to help people speak personal things in a very big way. Yeah.
So while I say, you're kind of a rebel poet, you're a rebel poet, But I wouldn't say that you're like, the whole model minority thing. But I don't think that you're a response to white people. I think that's the one thing that I kind of like about you. Because a lot of times when you're a rebel and you're a person of color, the whole thing is about like, how can I respond to white people? But you're not doing that. I mean, like, how do you kind of like navigate? And that's kind of quick. That's kind of a heavy question. How do you, in less than 2 minutes, 30 words or less, how do you navigate the world, with
It's
all
tough.
this baggage?
Yeah. I didn't understand where model minority came from until the past couple of years. How that was manufactured as an attack on the black community. And it's sort of eye-opening because that thing crosses oceans, because my parents' generation, even before we got to this country, they had bought into that myth. Those things travel so fast, so far, that we come here, like as immigrants, we come here and we try to look for ways for people to step on so we could rise up a little bit. And and we've done that. And I think even as a writer, as you were addressing earlier, like I know I've been published because of what ethnicity I am, what color my skin is, or I've been invited to things because I'm this or that. And it's like I just have to be aware of it all the time. Not to reject it all, like I won't, but even when you accept it, to be aware of it. Like, okay, this is the mechanism. So if I'm going to accept this, there's some things I need to say and do. Like I have a responsibility that goes just beyond me. So it's been so poetry to me, it's like it's a work like any other work. Like whether you're a plumber or I don't know, truck driver or whatever, or cook. It's like I don't think poetry is any higher. It's work. So like I just have to accept that, like that's my work, and I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it in a way where I am one person in this society and I have to contribute to it.
So you did this huge project called 90 for 90.
Yeah.
Where you had like 90 poetry readings.
90 literary events over 90 consecutive nights.
At Union Station. Well, it wouldn't start. We'll just say.
At
Tracks.
Yeah.
Union Station at Tracks, which is like an awesome space to have it.
Yeah, it was crazy. But it was also one of those things where one of our goals, I talked, you've had Natasha Dion on your show before.
Yes.
When we first met, we became friends and bonded over the fact that we were trying to like rethink the literary event, so that not only did we have a diverse group of people on stage, but how do we make the audience like diverse, because it's so segregated. Whether it's geography or style or whatever it is, people like audience segregate them. So doing 90 for 90, just the different types of people that were just coming through every single night was just kind of beautiful. I mean,
what's the next step from that? What do you plan on doing next?
I don't know.
You don't know?
You got
plans too?
Yeah. I mean, we have projects in March and April with book festivals and stuff that we have to focus on, but summer is around the corner and we need to think about what big project we want to do over the summer. Okay. Yeah.
So for writ large press, are you guys accepting submissions or anything like that?
Not right now, because we have manuscripts we need to put out for the next 2 years.
Okay.
So and we're, like I was saying earlier, we're rethinking what a book is and how we want to approach the idea of a book. But there's so many different publishers and writers out there that we love, so we're always like, I think we're the only publishers we know that helps other publishers and their authors book events.
Yeah, you do. You're very odd in that way.
Yeah, like we don't care. We like them. Like people should be reading their work. I don't care if no money comes in my pocket.
Yeah. So, do you have anything else you would like to, share before we go?
Yeah, actually. You were asking about favorite writers.
Yeah.
Right now, like Judith, my wife,
Mm-hmm.
who moved to Pittsburgh recently. She's been home on break. She's doing a PhD out there.
Mm-hmm.
She started writing a series on Medium. She just published her third piece. It's gonna be a 5-part thing about. It's like her abductions is about our miscarriage and then not being able to have kids and things. So it's, but it was from my point of view. She's writing sort of her experience as a woman, going through this experience of, realizing we weren't gonna have kids and then making that choice and then what that's meant, the challenges, everything. It's been beautiful and people should read it. It's pretty amazing. Yeah.
I will link that below so that people can hit that up. So thank you so much, Chi-Wan Choi, for being on the Black Girl Show. I really appreciate it. You're one of my little alive literary hero. I shouldn't even say that. I should stop calling people like putting people in categories: alive and dead. Okay,
that's a good category. Alive and dead. It's pretty clear.
It's pretty clear. Yeah. So, but thank you so much for being the second guest for 2015 on the first show. I like to tell you guys out there, thank you so much for watching. I will. The next guest will be June Edmonds and Lynn from the Watts House Theater. So it's going to be a really awesome show next Saturday. Again, tune in every Saturday at 3 p.m. on LA Talk Live. Ignore that 7 p.m. That was wrong. That's wrong. I forgot to change the date on there and the time. But I like to thank Chi-Wan Choi and Zoe Black and my new engineer, Van. Thank you so much. You can't see him, but he's there. He's there. I'm not just doing this by my brain. I don't have that kind of brain power. All right, so looking forward to seeing you guys Saturday. I will put the information in regards to everybody's information below, or I'll link it on the video. So this is Teka, Lark, Fleming. Signing off from the Black Girl Show, LA Talk Live, Radio 360, iTunes R&B, of course my website, my hashtag, Black Girl, all kind of stuff. All right, just kidding. All right, but no, I'm not kidding. That's actually all real. I actually have like a long list of stuff. All right, bye.
Moonshine, the baby